So,
what's happening, everybody? And welcome back to Weekly Top 5's from Library Chess Productions. And this time around, we're doing our top 5 movie characters of all time. And characters make the movie.
So I don't know if Justin did this because we didn't talk about it because that would be too much work. But for this one, I tried to stick to characters that made their debut in movies instead of, like comic book characters or whatever.
Right.
However, I did break that rule because I found out that so many movie characters are based on other things and stuff.
Yeah.
It wasn't a rule that we set, and I certainly broke it, but I did try to keep it to that whenever possible. But there were just way too many characters that I couldn't stick to that rule.
3 of my 5 would fit that rule.
Yeah,
so 60%.
So, it doesn't matter. It's just people might wonder, why isn't this character? I mean, because I only have 5 places. But also because, I tried to stay to it, but that doesn't mean I did. All right.
Cool.
So with that said, my number 5 is Kaiser Soze from The Usual Suspects. And I don't even love The Usual Suspects.
Right.
Did you see it?
Yeah, maybe.
I don't even love The Usual Suspects. I certainly enjoyed the movie, but it's not one I want to watch again. But basically, spoilers, Kevin Spacey. I'm going there, because I think he was the main character in that.
Yeah.
But he's like, the whole movie, he's telling this story about shit that went on and about this mythical figure, Kaiser Soze, right? And I love how this mythology was built around him, and you don't know if any of it is actually true because Kevin Spacey's character is just basically telling a story based on things around the room. And I just even though that character might be completely made up, I love this idea of such a mythical figure that would literally kill his family if he had to. I love that character. I think Soze is one of the great movie characters, even though I guess you technically see him on screen, but it's through stories that Spacey's telling, and plot twist, Spacey is Kaiser Soze and gets out of there and stuff. But I just love that mythology he built for himself, I guess.
Very nice.
Fuck it, I'm not one of these people who ain't going to include work that some artist did because of what they did. I'm like, if you put in a good role, I'm acknowledge that.
Yeah.
And I'm not even going to I don't even feel like I have to sit there being like, I know it's wrong what he did.
But
I'm not into that. Fucking put in good work. Kevin Spacey at one point was one of the better actors working.
Alright, my number 5 movie character of all time is V from V for Vendetta. Even though only appeared, obviously, in the one movie, Hugo Weaving, who kind of performed the... actually, I don't think he didn't perform the physical aspect of V. He performed the voice, I think.
Did he?
I think there was another player who was... another actor who was the actual on-screen physical presence. I think that's the way that it worked. I can't remember now, but certainly know it was Hugo Weaving's voice, and he's a bit of a treasure. It feels so weird calling it V for Vendetta is a great movie. It feels like it's one of those things that feels like it goes without saying.
Yeah.
But I love the way the character talks. I love the character's mindset, just the militance of the character's mindset, and these basically the single-mindedness where it's you think you can really Natalie Portman's character certainly thinks she can really trust this character to I can kind of change his mind maybe, or I can kind of stop him from doing the thing that he wants to do, and it's no, that's he's, and it's not even to paint him as an irredeemable character, because he's certainly not an irredeemable character, but he's gonna do what he's gonna do, and his mind is not going to be changed, and his moral compass is not going to be changed. And I remember the first time I watched that movie, I was captivated by that character. So there were a number of really good characters that could have wound up in this spot, but I wound up settling on V as my number 5. The Roman numeral for 5.
Yeah. I like how theatrical he is. I like these grand statements he makes. I really love V for Vendetta as well, and V as a character. He just didn't make my list.
Verily, a humble vaudevillian veteran.
For my number 4, I am going to break my only rule. And I'm going to pick the Joker from The Dark Knight. Because didn't he say that to Batman? Tonight you're going to break your only rule.
He said, I have one rule. Oh, well, that's the one you're going to have to break if you want to save them.
Yeah, that's it.
Tonight you're going to break your one rule.
I couldn't not put the Dark Knight's version of the Joker on there because he's one of the best. I mean, he might be the best villain. Well, I got a villain kind of on my list later too, but he's arguably the best villain in all of the movies. I know that's not cool necessarily to love the Dark Knight that much. But just speaking as a character, he's so interesting. His dialogue is so snappy, and I love how he has his history is multiple choice, and I just love the dialogue is just fantastic, and the way he looks is just fantastic. Like everything about the way that Nolan did the Joker, and like wrote the Joker, or his brother wrote the Joker, because I know they write stuff together. Like, it was just perfect. And, of course, the performance just made it all that much better.
Never start with the head. The prisoner gets all fuzzy.
Yeah, you could watch him all day.
Right, absolutely.
Like, it's amazing how good that is.
Oh, man.
It's magnetic.
It is, yes. Yeah, magnetic's a great way to describe that.
Yeah.
Oh, man. My number 4 movie character of all time comes from the greatest trilogy, The Lord of the Rings, and it is the one character from that I kind of put above, that I personally put above all others, and that's Aragorn, played by Viggo Mortensen. And the reason that Aragorn is the character that stands out to me so much is kind of like we talked about a little bit before with a character in a specific video game. That video may not even be up on the channel yet, but he's a guy that should be king, but and apparently that story just gets me, but who has completely turned away from that, not because of anything else other than himself.
Yeah.
He's just like, I can't be that. And I think that confidence issue and that hero's journey to coming to the spot where he's like, no, I can take this crown now and I can lead my people and da-da-da-da. Plus, I mean, Viggo Mortensen just puts in 3 tremendous performances. Like, his performance in Return of the King is so good, it actually approaches that line of being too much. And that's the one thing, if I find that there's any knock on Return of the King, I'm like, man, it's almost too much. But it doesn't go over that line. It brings it right back. And it's just, he's so good in that movie specifically, but he's so good at encompassing that character. He's so good as that character. So Aragorn from Lord of the Rings is my number 4.
I ain't seen that, but I'll tell you what, Viggo Mortensen in A History of Violence and Eastern Promises. Excellent characters, excellent acting jobs.
Eastern Promise, I remember that being like him being obviously the standout portion of Eastern Promise.
It's a great movie.
Yeah, and he's so tremendously good in it too.
But I have nothing to say about that crap.
Well, I mean, you've seen Fellowship and you've seen Two Towers,
but I don't really remember. He was fine.
Yeah,
like I don't. And the characters, whatever, it's Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, it's true. Like, he's such the focal point of Return of the King that once I force you to sit down and watch Return of the King with me, then that'll hopefully shine through as, like, he's really the focal part of the movie.
My number 3 is Ash Williams from The Evil Dead, which is a recency bias because I finally sat down over the past couple months and watched The Evil Dead. And, I mean, I've always liked Bruce Campbell and whatnot, and acknowledge the place of Ash Williams in cinema history. But now I've finally seen it, and he's like the ultimate B-movie character, just a legitimate, cool dude. And Evil Dead, just as a series, was one of those things where I'm like, why did it take me so long to get to this? Because, like, how can you not like a guy that got a chainsaw for a hand and a boomstick, says iconic lines like groovy, and like Hail to the King, and like you know what I mean? Like, he's such a cool character, and Bruce Campbell played him so perfectly.
It's a surprise to me that Bruce Campbell only recently announced that he's retiring as Ash. I'm like, how are you still doing Ash?
Well, they were doing the show.
Yeah.
And they unfortunately canceled it right when it was getting to something really cool, but whatever. He's done, and But yeah, Ash Williams is a fantastic horror comedy character.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. My number 3 movie character of all time is Caesar, and it's Caesar specifically from this trilogy of Planet of the Apes movies. And we've already talked about Planet of the Apes movies, and I believe at least one video up to this point that's already on the channel, if not multiple. So I won't go on too much about it, but specifically the character of Caesar, who goes from just being an ape, just a regular ape baby, to oh my god, I'm learning things at a crazy high, ridiculous rate, to oh my god, I can speak English now.
When he yells no in the first one.
No! Like, oh my god!
Shit!
The ape can talk. And again, Andy Serkis's brilliance with mocap and everything that he is able to bring to a character like that in terms of facial expression and performance, and obviously what the Caesar character means to that trilogy is like what Frodo means to the Lord of the Rings. Like the central sort of driving force in that whole trilogy. And the 3 performances really that Andy Serkis puts in are just unbelievable to me. So I'm going with Caesar as my number 3.
It's a good pick.
Yeah.
Really enjoy Caesar.
Yeah, absolutely. Those movies are not what they are without a performance and a character like that.
He's more human than humans.
He is, just like Rob Zombie said.
Yep. My number 2 is Alonzo Harris from Training Day.
Oh, yes.
And part of that, obviously, is the performance from, Denzel, my favorite living actor. Some people say his performance is a little overrated because he's done other roles like, in Malcolm X and whatnot. But I just think the charm of Alonzo Harris shines through. He's a real dick, but he's such an entertaining character.
Yeah.
Like, sure, essentially just a corrupt cop. We've seen a lot of corrupt cops. They're not cool. But for some reason, I love watching him mess with people, and he's such a dick. And he's got such endlessly quotable lines, and
he's the engine that really runs that movie.
Yeah, there's no real emotional depth to him so much.
Not really, no.
When he's freaking out at the end because he knows his life is coming to an end.
Yeah, he knows the Empire's crumbling.
But you're not looking at him what a deep character. But he's a villain. He doesn't even need to be deep because you care about him in a sense because he's so cool.
Right.
With the stuff he says that you kind of just into it. Even though you know it's wrong, you're still just kind of watching him being I'm cheering for him anyway.
Yeah,
he's a
for sure.
Dink.
My number 2 movie character of all time is the character that I believe more so than any other character really drives the bus in terms of the Star Wars franchise. And I'm gonna make not necessarily make some enemies with this, but I'm gonna have to do a little bit of explaining. It's Anakin Skywalker.
Ooh, Anakin.
Anakin Skywalker. Because if you look at it this way, A New Hope, Empire, and Jedi are the Luke Skywalker story. Anakin Skywalker is all 3 prequels, all 3 of those movies as Darth Vader, and then you can even say Force Awakens, Kylo Ren so desperately wants to be Darth Vader. And that's the whole motivation behind the Kylo Ren character. Yeah. So then you can even say into what I would assume would be as far as this upcoming episode 9, it's all Anakin Skywalker in some form or fashion. That character going from what he started as all the way through to what he even is now. And for that character to have this enduring legacy in different ways that has gone now, or will, I suppose, go through 9 movies plus all the other elements to the Star Wars franchise. I had to go Anakin Skywalker as my number 2 because I think he's the one that really drives that whole franchise.
It's an interesting pick. Because I don't think from a character arc perspective, I don't think Anakin's story is bad. It's just kind of some crappy performances and some crappy writing. But if you look at it as just his arc, it's really not that bad. It's kind of interesting. So I don't think I'd hate on it. I don't know that it was needed. Like, I think one of the problems is that people didn't necessarily need Darth Vader humanized, right?
Right.
And I don't know how I feel about that. It's an interesting pick. I wouldn't have chosen him, but because I'm more, I don't know, superficial. I'm like, I would have been Boba Fett.
Right.
You know? But I'm really interested. He looks cool, and I like bounty hunters and stuff.
Right. Or I think a lot of people would have just said, well, Darth Vader.
Yeah.
But it's like, but Darth Vader is Anakin. And so it's,
So it's an interesting pick. I think the prequels get hate for his character arc. And I'm only speaking the character arc, and I don't think it deserves it, because it's an interesting character arc. And my number one will come as a surprise to no one that knows me. It's Rocky Balboa.
My number one is Rocky Balboa.
I mean, it's Rocky. He's the best movie character ever. He's charming. He's funny in this really unfunny way.
Yeah.
Like, his jokes aren't funny, but he's funny. I'm laughing. I don't know why. Full of heart. Perfectly portrayed by Stallone. Written so well. It's down to earth, honest.
One thing that I kind of like is the humor element behind Rocky, because people are like, well, it's a boxing movie. Like, yeah, and I'm not going to make the argument that it's a comedy, but he says some funny stuff. Like,
he does.
Like, the one that always kind of sticks back to me is, or one of the ones at least that always sticks back to me is when they're in the press conference in Rocky Balboa with Mason the Line Dixon, and they're having the press conference. I think it's after the press conference. They're kind of talking.
Are they standing?
Yeah, they're kind of there, and this, is like, you know, you press me, you try to hurt me, I'll take you out. Rocky's like, well, I didn't. A lot of people come to Vegas to lose, I didn't. And he's like, it's already over. And he's like, Rocky says, ain't nothing over till it's over. And then Dixon's like, what's that from, the 80s? And he's like, it's probably the 70s. He doesn't even look at him when he says it. He's just like, he's actually thinking about it. He's like, it's probably the 70s. Like, that's so funny. That's so good.
Rocky's such an endearing character, just in all ways. He's a perfectly written character. I said it. Perfectly written character. Perfectly performed character. Just a joy to see.
Yeah.
When he's finally done in movies, I don't know if he is in Creed 2 because Dolph comes back. So, So, but when Rocky says his goodbye, that will be a sad day.
It's going to be tough. But yeah, and I'm so glad that this is yet another one where we wound up with the same number, not just the same answer, but the same number one answer. All right, folks, that's going to do it for another weekly Top 5. Like, comment, subscribe, follow us down here, and we'll see you next week.
See ya.